Hi, my name is Dawn Good. I am a licensed social worker and I work for the Fairfield County AOT Board. I'm a clinical care coordinator there and I oversee our AOT program.
Hi, my name is Dupree Taylor, and I work for Catalyst Life Services as a case manager. And my role with the Assistant Outpatient Treatment Program is I'm the Assistant Outpatient Treatment Liaison for Richland County Probate Court.
Hi, I'm Michael Van Cleve. I'm AOT monitor with Hopewell Health Centers in Southeast Ohio.
So my program is in Fairfield County, which is Lancaster, Ohio. Our program started in 2018, and currently we have about 29 participants.
Yes, so I'm the Assistant Outpatient Treatment Liaison for Richland County here in Mansfield, Ohio. The program started in 2018, and right now we have four participants in the program.
Currently, I work with AOT programs in Athens and Gallia counties. In Athens County, we started about 3 years ago and currently have 9 participants. Gallia County accepted its first case just shy of 2 years ago and currently has 1 participant.
When someone is referred to AOT by our criminal legal system, the typical case goes that a decision is made internally by the prosecutor's office that a person has been found incompetent to stand trial, and the plan is for their charges to be dismissed. The prosecutor then notifies me of their intent to refer the person. At that point, I can request a copy of their competency evaluation and begin the evaluation. Typically, we bring in our community mental health provider to assist with gathering all the historical information, including treatment and criminal history. We reach out to the individual to try to discuss the commitment and what's expected of a commitment participant, and really just establish some rapport. We always speak to the family if that's at all possible, because they always are able to provide some great collateral information. And then we get clinical appointments set if that's necessary. We only have 5 days from the filing to have a court hearing. When that happens, our board attorney submits a competency evaluation that was done by the court previously and requests a 90-day commitment. And that just allows us some extra time to continue the investigation and complete an assessment and ensure that a person is appropriate for the commitment. People that are referred through the criminal legal system are treated differently once they're in the AOT program. There is a bit of difference in the beginning because you typically use their competency evaluation to start that initial 90-day commitment. And then from there, get the assessment and they fall into the program and are treated exactly the same as anybody else coming into the program.
Yeah, so typically it starts with an affidavit from the hospital. The psychiatrist will evaluate the patient and determine that they would be, if they thought they were appropriate for assistant outpatient treatment. And then they would send that affidavit over to Richland County Probate Court for review. Once that was reviewed, they would also do what's called another second opinion from another psychiatrist at the hospital. To just review to see if the person should be an AOT. Once that process is done, then they would the Richland County Probate Court would then decide if they were going to have a hearing to have the person probated into the Assistant Outpatient Treatment Program. And then that will be done through Attorney Jerger, who is the Richland County mental health board attorney, and then he would, submit that process, and he would be the representative for Richland County Mental Health Board. The court would assign an attorney for the patient, the client, and they would have a hearing for a 90-day commitment into Assistant Outpatient Treatment Program. Once a person is committed into AOT program, and we see it, that they're beginning to decompensate, what we would do is we will write out paperwork and submit that to the psychiatrist, what we're seeing, And then the psychiatrist will review it also, and probably, also have some comment on the situation as far as what they've seen during treatment, or that they observe also the decompensation. We would submit that then to Richland County Probate Court, and then they would contact the sheriff department to go have that person picked up to be evaluated. They would be brought to Catalyst for wellness screening, and then determine if they need to be in the hospital. That paperwork would also say what the recommendation would be, whether that person should be taken to the hospital, either Ohio Health Mansfield here, or if the psychiatrist feels that person should be sent to Heartland Behavioral for further evaluation and treatment.
It's the Addiction and Mental Health Board, outpatient treatment providers, and our probate court work together to develop a process to accept referrals from community members for AOT. So when an individual is looking for assistance with a family member or loved one, they'll often reach out to our ADAM board or myself directly, and we'll discuss AOT as a potential option. If that seems like an appropriate route, we'll gather collateral from the family, review treatment history if it's available, and if it seems like that individual may meet both statutory and clinical criteria for AOT, we'll go ahead and schedule a psychiatric evaluation. At that psychiatric evaluation, will be determined definitively if psychiatrist believes that an individual meets criteria for AOT. They would then complete both the affidavit of mental illness and a certificate of evaluation, and we file that directly with our probate court, who then goes ahead and schedules their hearing to review evidence, psychiatrist testimony, and determine if the individual will be ordered to AOT.
So if we find that someone's not appropriate for AOT that's been referred from the criminal justice system, we definitely have a follow-up conversation with the prosecutor. We found that this is a really important discussion. It's an opportunity to educate on why they're not appropriate, and it really just improves our relationship between the two systems. Typically, we have not seen where the charges are refiled for any reason. Generally, that's a person that probably isn't doing well. They just don't meet the standards we've set for our AOT program. So we do try to reach out and engage them and get them into services if we can at all costs.
To keep the stakeholders involved and keep communication between all of the parties going, we have Richland County has a quarterly meeting at the Richland County Mental Health Board. And that meeting consists of Catalyst, which is the treatment agency, Ohio Health Mansfield, the Richland County Sheriff Department, Richland County Probate Court is also there.
So it's incredibly important to keep the referral source involved in the process as much as possible. Most often, these are family members. They are referring individuals that not only do they care about, but often they have already been acting as treatment providers for some time. So as we move forward with an AOT process, we keep them updated on scheduling of evaluations, hearings as they're scheduled, and also provide information both on what they can expect from the legal process, what they could expect as far as like a timeline goes for AOT, and also what they could expect from their loved one during the process. At this time, NAMI is not involved as a shareholder in our programs. However, we have had discussions with them and have offered opportunities to be able to provide some education and develop a solid referral process for their NAMI members.
The dismiss and refer process to AOT can be beneficial, but it's not a fix-all. There still seems to be a lot of provider gaps, difficulty finding appropriately licensed people to assess, testify, and provide the services. There's a very strict timeline from the state. And it's really difficult to find and locate and engage unhoused participants in short timelines. Folks that are appropriate for AOT are often distrustful or don't believe they have a mental health condition. So the success of AOT happens very slowly. It's hard work to establish a relationship and build trust, and that just doesn't happen overnight. So I feel that there's some inappropriate expectations of AOT with the referral from criminal justice because it's not a punishment. AOT is not meant to be a probation system, and it doesn't really have any real consequences to non-adherence. There's a funding burden to the ADAM boards as well. They're the primary funder of these programs. So state and federal money really does need to be added in order to make the program robust and making sure that it's able to address the unique needs of each person, especially those involved in the criminal justice system.
When a referral comes from a community member, we may have a challenge in gathering information that actually backs up the claim that the individual is mentally ill, subject to court order. We could gather collateral information from the family member, from the referral source, but we also need some treatment history, record of scheduled appointments, record of hospitalizations, record of crisis screens. We'll also kind of back that up from the treatment side. Not having access to that can definitely slow down the process. It makes it much more difficult to determine whether that individual has been unable to voluntarily engage in treatment, or if they may not have just had the opportunity to do so. So once we determine that an individual appears to meet statutory and clinical criteria for AOT, we'll go ahead and schedule an evaluation with a psychiatrist that we have contracted just for the purpose of completing those initial evaluations for AOT. If an individual does not attend that scheduled evaluation, then the psychiatrist or referral source will write an affidavit of mental illness based off the information they have available, and we will, utilizing our board's attorney, request that the court order that the respondent attend an evaluation, and though it is something we prefer not to do, if necessary, we can request that they be escorted by the police to that scheduled appointment. With the cases that we've handled at this point, the sheer majority of them, we have been able to get their evaluations, whether by them coming in voluntarily or receiving an order to attend their evaluation, and have been able to have their hearings before they required hospitalization. There has been a case where an individual during this process received new charges and had been incarcerated. In that case, we coordinated with the trial court and the prosecuting attorney while maintaining our process in probate so that we could keep up to date on what was going on in the case they had, and to ensure a smooth transition into AOT once that case had been resolved.
One barrier I would like to point out is there's a lot of people that don't necessarily go to the hospital but need the help. So that presents a barrier. But anyone can submit an affidavit to have someone go into the assisted outpatient treatment program here in Richland County. So that can be a family member can submit an affidavit to probate court for a person to be probated into the program. That's where NAMI plays a strong role in that. I failed to mention earlier, NAMI also, they facilitate our meetings. So they're also in that in our quarterly meeting. They put out information to the community about mental illness and that type of thing, and so they play a role in that. So that is one one way that we get people probated into assisted outpatient treatment, but that the hospital piece mainly being typically how we get people probated, but that one source can be somewhat of a barrier if people aren't familiar with how to start that process.
We also have a problem just getting the education to the attending provider that's in the hospital and getting them on board to assess and do the testimony that's needed for the commitment, for the hearing. When we're trying to get the education to the doctor, it's difficult to have a conversation with them. It's usually a go-between between us and the social worker that's assigned in the hospital. Just staying on that, frequent calls, frequent emails to send some written education and materials is often helpful, so the doctor can look those over on their own. Sometimes there is some difficulty in between what we're saying to the person and then what the information they're actually giving to the doctor. The very small timelines if a person's in the hospital and a very small window of communication between the social worker and the provider. So that does cause some hardship in trying to get someone on the commitment while they're in the hospital. And in keeping the communication lines open, we often tend to work in silos in different systems and just educating people on what exists and what we're capable of, and also our gaps in our system too. That's the way we get the gaps closed and the program improved.
I think it largely is that outreach and communication with other providers who either may not be familiar with AOT or it's just kind of not registering that someone they're working with may be appropriate for it. As much as possible, be involved in agency treatment teams, right? Listen in on people struggling with individual cases. Not all of those struggles are going to be appropriate for us to use a probate process for, but some of them will be.
Thank you for the opportunity to share the referral process, the Richland County probate course referral process into the assisted outpatient treatment program, but also giving me the opportunity to hear how other counties do things in the respected areas, from the criminal side of things, but also to the community side.
I appreciate the opportunity to share what we're doing here in Fairfield County. And hear what others are doing. I feel like TAC does a great job of bringing people together to collaborate and really problem solve, and that's very appreciated.
We found that AOT is an incredibly successful tool that can be utilized to provide assistance to families that are struggling with individuals with mental illness. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to discuss what we've learned.